Hello world, my name's Don, and in today's video I'm going to take a look at DxO's new Photolab 6 and talk a little bit about why I think it's the most important update to this software since they first switched to the Photolab branding. So I was away on holiday when Photolab 6 dropped, so I'm a little bit behind the ball on this. But I wanted to do a quick video. In a little while I'll share with you sort of a little bit of a walkthrough and some thoughts on some of the new features as I take a quick look at them. But before that I wanted to share with you why I think this is probably the most important update that they've done for Photolab. I've seen on the web lots of people saying not enough is different from Photolab 5. I don't think it's worth the upgrade, or talking about, I guess, why they've done the updates they've done in terms of the color. What difference does it make? What if my screen can only show me sRGB? What if my screen can only show me Adobe RGB? And why do I need this new wide gamut color space? And so here are my thoughts. This is the internet. Someone will think that I'm wrong on this, no doubt. But I have had to poke around because I didn't want to be making false claims. And I found a video of Aaron Nace from Flern talking about a really similar subject, talking about color spaces and usage thereof, basically. And the crux of that video was that in editing, it is given that we want to manipulate, we want to shift things around, we want to massage, it's always best to start with the most information at the beginning of that process. And I think we intuitively all know this. It's the reason that if you're watching this, you shoot in RAW and you don't shoot in JPEG. It's because if you shoot in JPEG, you're locking some certain things in. It gets much harder to manipulate those after the fact. Shooting in RAW, we want to get the maximum data so that it's got maximum flexibility. And previously in DxO, and I had come across this years ago, the fact that it was only using Adobe RGB under the hood. But I didn't mind too much just because I enjoy using this. As I've said lots of times before, lots of software out there is good. I enjoy using this one. So, sometimes when we enjoy stuff, we overlook things. But I didn't love the fact that it was only using Adobe RGB. So now that they've switched to this new DxO wide gamut, which I understand from, and again, this is me passing along information that I've not fully verified, but I think it might have been Petapixel or someplace like that, had an article saying that, that DxO has commented that that DxO wide gamut is similar to ProPhoto RGB, but with some tweaks, particularly around those colors that we're capable of perceiving. So whatever that means, but very large color space. And in essence, it gives us maximum flexibility, especially in images that are quite saturated, because it's the more saturated colors that tend to fall into those outskirts, so to speak. And so you do your editing in these wider color spaces, and yes, you might not even be able to see all of it, but it still has that room to move, to massage, to shift. And then when you're going to your output, when you decide you want to create a TIFF, and you're going to put it in Adobe RGB, then it's going to look at that finished product after all your manipulation's been done, and it's going to package that as best it can into that Adobe RGB container. And that has to be better than starting with the Adobe RGB container and working your way in the other direction. Little bit of an edit there as my son just came in the room and walked around for a few moments, interrupted my flow, but that's all right. So like I was saying, it's better to bring that down to the container that you need when you're ready to output it, rather than while you're working on it. Because if you're trying to work on it and you're within that container, you'll be bumping up against the walls. Whereas in this larger space, you can shift things around and you're not bumping into walls. Things can flow more naturally. So that's my thoughts on that. That's why I think, everything else aside, about this update, I think that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And thank you, DxO, for implementing that. I think it was time, and I'm really happy to see it. So with that, let's go on. I've got a little bit of screen capture. This is a little bit train of thought. This is me kind of working my way through, a little bit of look at the keywording, a little bit of look at the new repair tool and how you can kind of shift things around that way. Yeah, some bits and pieces. Some look at the, what you call it, the soft proofing feature, which is quite cool. Yeah, so let's cut away to that. I have put together a small folder of images from a recent trip that I thought I would just kind of go through as I'm looking at some of the new bits and pieces, exploring Photolab 6. I've probably had 2 or 3 hours of kind of looking at it and playing with it, so still learning, but I thought I would just do a quick video to show some of the things that I have been noticing about this. So one of the big things, first of all, in the photo library is around the keywords being added. So just here on the right, I've already scrolled down. It will probably look a lot more like that when you first come in. And I've just scrolled down. You can, of course, fill these in as you see fit. I can just bring them, but the keywords coming down here at the bottom. You can see that I've already added a few keywords in my various playing. And just go ahead and add a few more. So I know that all of these images are from nearby a spot called Wanaka. There we go. And you can see that's popped down below there, letting you know. And it's also showing down below and now the keyword list. And you can see here that you've got the ability to add a new keyword and to minus a keyword. So, for example, in Wanaka, if I take this one, was, so actually I'll come here and I'll go plus, and it gives me the ability to put inside Wanaka. So if I go there, and that one was Rob Roy track. So actually I'm going to go a little t. Don't want to capitalize things too much. Create. And now that's put that inside there. And it's added the one image to Rob Roy track. And these two are DHU, Glendu Bay. And that wants to put inside. Okay, I'm going to cancel there because of obviously, yes, look at that. When I started that, I was selected on Rob Roy track. So there's a little user error. So select on Wanaka, go plus, and go and do Glendu Bay. Put inside Wanaka. There we go. So I can set that up thusly. Scroll that down there. Nice. And I just realized that this one was also from the Rob Roy track. So I'll come over and I can just click that there once it's created, if I'm doing that whole thing. And actually, come to think of it, so was that one. And I won't bother with the others for now. And of course, if I want to do the old search up here, it should search via keywords also. So if I go Rob Roy track, you can see various things show up here, but then they've got the keyword down at the bottom. And if I click that, then I just get my 3 that were from Rob Roy track. So that's all quite cool. I'm quite appreciative of that. Just recently I was kind of glancing around at products such as ACDC, things for photo management. I don't like to do very much photo management. I like them to sit in the folders where I put them, but having an ability to do a little something is nice, and I think I'll actually use these keywords that they've added in here. So I'm really excited about that one. Now let me just clear that out. Come back to my project, Photolab 6. Here we go. So let's go ahead and have a look at some of the things that I might look at with this. So come over to Customize. And one of the things that I noticed early on, when I went to some images that I had previously put into Photolab before this new update came out, and when I went to those images that had previously been inside Photolab in some way, this working color space was actually set to the Classic Legacy. So I guess in an attempt not to mess up your edits, it's taking images that have been in before and putting them straight to the Classic Legacy. But anything that's new, it's putting them straight to the DxO wide gamut, which I think is fantastic. Now I don't know, it'll be curious whether or not this will show up. Just wait, make that go away. It'll be curious whether or not that will show up on the video, because we have color space issues when we go to video, in that it's going to be going to a video that is Rec 709, which is not a whole lot different than sRGB. And so will the variations I show you actually even show up? Let's find out. So if I go to Classic, you watch the blue sky, probably see some shift. Not heaps on that one. You can watch the histogram at the same time and you'll see some changes there as well. Kind of gets a little bit more space. This image I think has had, to my memory, has had a little bit of tweaking on it. Yes, see, I've got a little touch of clear view. I've got a little bit of smart lighting, some bits and pieces. Something tells me there are a few local adjustments. Yeah, I brushed on some local adjustments there. I brought down this exposure here. I think I added a little bit of contrast to the sky, things like that. I also, in terms of, originally this image had this post. Will it show up? No, not if I come out of local adjustments, it should. Yeah, see, that post used to go up through the island. And I realized after the fact, a bit of a rookie mistake there, cutting through something like that. So I just used the healing tool to go ahead and pull that out, and it's done a pretty good job. There's a little bit of duplication there. I certainly could have done a better job on that, but it came up pretty nice. I don't think, if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't overly notice it. So yeah, quite cool. One of the things I've noticed with the new version of Photolab is, and I'm so happy for this one, they have reordered the items in these tabs, the light tab, the color tab, etc., so that they now match what has for some time been the order that they were in the Mac version. I started out primarily using the Mac version, and then I switched to Windows, and it always drove me crazy because it wasn't just my habit. The Mac version just made more sense to me in terms of the order. So they've now brought those two things together, and the order is now similar, and I'm so happy for that. You start out with your exposure compensation, and then your smart lighting, then selective tone, and then you start to get down into the contrasty sorts of things. Just makes so much more sense to me. So that's absolutely fantastic. Coming over here to the color tab, of course, we've got the wide gamut at the top, and you can change that if you want. I'm not sure why you would want to. Again, I guess older images where you've already been doing some editing, perhaps, but limiting that ability to shift things just doesn't feel like a good move at this stage. What else? I've noticed that down here in the style and toning, they've taken away. There used to be entries for portrait and landscape in here, and those have gone away. So that's a little something. Coming down, that's all quite similar. And then soft proofing down at the bottom here. If I turn soft proof on, it'll give me, and if you watch the histogram on this one, so this is just taking, this is when it goes to sRGB, it's going to do a conversion, and it'll do its best to keep it looking similar. So when you flick that on, it's not a massive difference in how it's converting, but you do see that, see how the blacks particularly and the whites, you're losing space, and those are kind of now infringing on the edges, so to speak. So depending how you felt about that, you might want to make a few edits specific for outputting an sRGB version, maybe make a virtual copy. So if I came here and did virtual copy, and then maybe I come over to this one and I make this be, and you can also just actually, while I'm thinking of it, see it's got this little icon that will come up showing you that soft proofing is currently on for that, and what type of soft proofing is on for that. But if I came to my virtual copy, maybe I want to pull that up so it's not right on the edge there. So I might come back here and I might lift my shadows just a smidge for the, or maybe even lift my blacks just a little smidge too. Gone the wrong way. There we go, just to take them off of the edge just a little. So not a huge difference, but it might just make that sRGB version look a little bit better because it's not crowding up on the edge. Similarly, we've got the red crowding up on the edge there. And what might you do for that? Maybe you come here to the red part of the tone curve and pull that down a little bit. Just, mostly affecting the highlights. If you were keen, if you found it was making any difference. In this case, I don't actually find it's a big deal. But that soft proofing feature, long story short, very handy. I'm quite excited to use it in relation to printing down the track as well. It gives you the opportunity for perceptual and for relative in terms of how it's going about making that conversion. And look, by the looks of this, coming soon, it will have the ability to simulate paper and ink, which, I don't know, every iteration I've ever seen of that doesn't make too big a difference. Just kind of makes it look a little duller, but hey, it can't hurt. It can't hurt. So that's cool. I'll turn that off, and I'll come back to this one, turn that off. You may notice too that when I've got soft proofing on, it's turning the sides to be white, and that is a setting. You can choose what colors. That's in the edit preferences display. It's got soft proofing background color, and right now it's set to white, and my basic background color is just a lighter gray. I tend to leave it lighter gray nowadays because it tricks my eyes less. If the whole thing is really dark, it will make me feel like the image is brighter than it really is, and then I end up making images that are overly dark. So it's just something that I've come to over time. So I'll click on that. I thought it was quite cool. I'm just going to pop over to this image. Some of the new heel stuff. So if I come to my heel brush, and actually I'll just move that back out of the way, I can expand on this and it will put this up. And it gives me some options. So new mask, add a stroke, erase a stroke, and transform the source. Some of these, opacity, feather, repair or clone, these are things that we've had in the past. But this is quite cool. So, and I've only played with this a little, but I think that there's definitely some space for this to be quite useful in the future. So I'm going to just grab a spot there, and I'm on repair, and I don't actually want to repair that. I'm just kind of grabbing a place. I'm going to go show masks, and I'm going to make this cloud my source. And I haven't maybe made it quite big enough, so I'll come here and I'll add, oops, I did the wrong thing, undo, and I'll add just there to make sure that it's going outside. So now that's my source, and you see that I've copied that over. I'll turn show masks off again now. I've copied that over, so that's quite cool. And if I come to here, so if I take this box, watch this cloud, See, I've just totally flipped the way that that's gone across. Made it smaller. You know, so there's quite a bit of, like I said, I obviously still need to have a bit of a play with this, but there seems to be a lot of power with that. We've also got these transforms here, like flip horizontally, flip vertically. You know, you can kind of just have a wee kind of play with that and see how it goes, but interesting stuff. Lovely. So there's that tool. I think that's really cool. I think, I'm just out of curiosity, I've not tried this, but let me grab this. So this will be a new knowledge, show masks, and let me go crazy. So this is my hand, by the way. I was getting a terrible flare on a lens that I thought I should not be getting a flare on. And I was very confused. I never thought to look at the front of my lens. I had a huge big fingerprint smudge on the front of my lens, and that no doubt was causing the flare. Anyway, another thing that I've got, of course, is I've got Viewpoint installed. And so it's got the new ability to sort of liquify. So see, let's put that grid up, and I can drag those, and I can tighten the grid. So if I wanted to do sort of more finer detailed work, maybe I wanted to. Well, that's probably not a good example. Let's bring that down to not quite such a big grid. Oh, hello. Let's do this one. There we go. You know, whatever. Who knows? Who knows what you want to do with this, but don't really have a high ISO image right now, but you can see here, got the high quality, the prime, the deep prime, and the deep prime XD. Now, as they've said on the promotional materials, you can now rotate at the same time if you're so inclined, and that's, you can see how that's working just like that. So that can be a part of your crop feature, which I don't want to do right now, but just to show how it's possible. We've also got rotate 90, so you know, that sort of quick rotation like that. So something else that I noticed was that, and I'll come over here and see if I can find something out of Gamut here. On this histogram space, and you can see that it's not quite drawing correctly, that this bottom is cut off. Now, I've got I'm on a 4K monitor, but also my eyesight is not what it used to be, and so I've got things maybe on 150%, something like that. And now I notice DxO, this most recent version, they seem to have some scaling there as well. So it's not quite fitting yet. I did have a play with some settings that sort of corrected it, but then some other things went a bit funny, so I've put it back for now. But the thing that we're missing on here, we've got the highlight and shadow warnings there, but we've also got this toggle monitor gamut warning, and we've got this toggle destination gamut warning, which are quite interesting. So let me just see. I don't know that anything is necessarily out of gamut on this. Let's see if I can make something out of gamut on this so that it will show up. Might be a bit much. Oh, there we go. Whatever I've done there with the blues. So you can see that's now letting me know that my monitor is not capable of reproducing those colors correctly that are happening there. Yeah, and I can turn that off again, turn that on again, turn that off again. So it's giving me a representation as best it can, but my monitor's not capable of showing me that properly. So that gives me a little bit of a hint. My monitor is currently on an sRGB calibration, because when I'm doing these videos, again, it just simplifies the process. It makes it more so that what I'm seeing is really similar to what you're seeing when we take it to video. So yeah, that's that gamut warning for the monitor. And then if you've got soft proofing turned on, and again, here you can see this little icon letting me know that I do. There's also a button next to it that shows that, whether or not you're in or out of gamut for that. And again, let's see. Yeah, you can see that blue if I increase saturation on that, that blue quickly starts to go out of Gamut. So I need to be a little bit mindful of that because that's not going to represent very well. Yeah, so it's probably, I mean, my take on that would be that when you're saving, when you're converting, it's going to attempt to convert and keep things looking more or less similar. So a little bit of this will be fine. It should correct for it, but you probably don't want masses and masses of this kind of out of Gamut. So you can kind of get a sense for, hey, I'm going to sRGB. I can't see these colors exactly as they exist, and sRGB is not going to be able to save them either. So it's just given that extra little bit of info before you output it to the world. Of course, if you were soft proofing for print, same thing would be happening. You'd choose your, I'm not going to go, I haven't set it up yet, so I'm not going to go digging through to find my ICC profiles for my printer, but you know, you would do that, and let's say you've got this profile for a certain paper you're going to use. You could do the same thing, select that paper there, and it'll give you a sense of what colors are capable of reproducing in that color space. This lens didn't do too badly. It's actually an interesting little lens. Recently I got a Nikon Z6, and previously on my F-mount cameras, I had an adapter to take some of my old Mamiya or Mamiya, depending on how you like to say it, lenses and convert them to F-mount. So I put on my FDZ adapter, and I then put on the adapter to take it from F to Mamiya, and then I put on this Mamiya 210 millimeter lens, which I don't know. I mean, I've had it for 25 years. It's an old manual focus one, before they went autofocus even, and it didn't do too badly. It resolved pretty nicely. I don't know. I'd need to do some side-by-sides. I don't know that it's quite keeping up with some of the new glass in terms of exact detail reproduction, but it's done all right. Right then. So, I mean, that's really it for this video. Like I said, it's just a short look at some of the things that were standing out to me about this new release. What do you think? Have you upgraded? Are you going to upgrade? Do you think this is a worthwhile upgrade to the DxO Photolab software? Hit me up in the comments. And with that, I'll say goodbye. And just with a little bit of an added bit, which is that coming soon, if you're watching this maybe next time, I have recently applied to become a DxO affiliate. So in future, keep your eyes open. I'll have an affiliate link down below if you're looking at some DxO software. I just have to dive back into those emails and see if I can find the link. I know I saw a bit there where I was approved, but I have not got there yet. Life is busy, but we keep going. So have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.